All right, item number 12, file number 1911459. Resolution directing the Commissioner of City Development to develop and present recommendations to the Common Council on alternative housing models for development that lead to permanent affordability and community ownership. This file is sponsored by Alderwoman Cox, Alderman Perez, Alderman Stamper, Alderwoman Lewis, and Alderman Hamilton. Ms. Brown, you have the floor. Or do we,
Mr. Chair.
Would like to have some context provided by the sponsor?
Yes.
Alderwoman Cox.
This is another resolution following a footnote. As we see the tremendous amount of investment in parts of the city, particularly downtown, we've struggled with the potential for displacement and gentrification of surrounding areas. So one of the things that I know myself, Alderman Stamper and Alderman Perez have been laser focused on is those ways that we can be working to ensure, for as much as we as a city can, the ability for those pillars of the community that have helped to build these neighborhoods up so great, the opportunity to stay in those neighborhoods that they've helped build. So that comes in a variety of ways. The anti-displacement study initially, the fund that has been developed and utilized for the first time this year, which we hope to be able to last for 20 years. The other legislation we've passed about new development in these particular areas that are at risk of displacement, requiring at least 20% of their units to be affordable, and to give priority to people who already live in those areas, and a multitude of things that we are doing and will be doing as a city to try to make sure that people can stay in their neighborhoods. But there are more ways that affordable and home and community ownership can happen. Some of us took trips to Chicago and studied some of the things that have been done. I know we have colleagues at the county and former colleagues at WIDA who suggested many things throughout the years. I think it's just incumbent upon us to explore and encourage our subject matter experts in DCD to also explore what those possibilities are. So this resolution just directs DCD to present recommendations to us as a council for some alternative housing models for development that lead to permanent affordability and community ownership.
Thank you very much, Alderman Cox, Alderman Stamper.
Alderman Cox laid it out well. I wanted to ask the department, are you familiar with, Martha, did you go with us to Chicago?
No, city government people were not, on our side, were not actually invited for that trip.
No, Rocky went.
No, not that trip. You're talking about the co-op trip, right?
Yeah, we weren't.
We went with the Sox game.
Wyoming Winston came.
What's that?
Oh, so you got,
so the answer is no.
So you may not know about that experience. Okay, so co-op, research, land contract.
Don't feel bad. They go on their own trip.
Have you all been on your own trip?
We understand we have a research assignment to do here.
Yeah, you're going to go check.
We certainly, if travel is necessary, we'll...
The experience is excellent. The land contract I'm really interested in. That gives direct ownership to the community. So land contract, co-op, and it was one more, Alderman Cox. Those are the main ones.
The land banks or something?
Which one?
Is it land banks or something?
Something.
Trust?
Probably a community land trust, probably.
Community land trust, yeah. That's basically the same thing, community ownership. And based on the boundary, and if you come to this area, you have to consult with the community based on some type of board or commission or something. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you. And where else is it being done? I know it's in Chicago. Bowman, you know where?
Well, the co-op model is all over the country
Chicago,
in various forms.
Pittsburgh.
A lot of it's driven by state statutes as far as what's permissible. But there's a variety of models of co-op, and I think that is worth exploring. Absolutely.
Yeah. Last question, Ms. Brown. Do we have the ability to withhold taxes until a particular house is up and running or a particular business up and running? For example, Let's say we rehab some properties, let small businesses get in there. Once they're making a profit, then we institute the tax. Do we have that authority?
It's my understanding that under the uniformity clause of the Wisconsin State Constitution, we do not have that authority. The city treasurer could give you a lot more detail about that, but that's one thing that's a little different in Wisconsin than in some other states. Our taxing.
They do in Detroit.
In some other states, you can have lower taxes for elderly people, for example, or low-income people. We cannot do that in Wisconsin.
Not that, withholding the taxes. Like, you're going to have to pay taxes, but not until your business is profiting.
That's an interesting twist. I'd suggest you bring in the treasurer's office for a specific question like that. But
I would also suggest talking to the city attorney.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Alderwoman Cox.
My expectation would be that there be an examination of the, different categories of things that Alderman Stamper talks about and any others that meet the permanent affordability and community ownership goal that we are attempting to do. But not only the examination, but in that examination that you look at other cities that have done it, what has been the pros and cons, what might work for Milwaukee, and what might not, and the reasons why not. State law allows blah, blah, blah. That's why they're able to do it. We can't do it because blah, 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 that kind of thing. So it gives us, some parameters of what's possible here. But yeah, so that's what I would like. Other city comparables, pros and cons, and any legal limitations for the different suggestions.
if I could, I would just mention, just so we remember, there are at least two categories of permanent affordable housing in Milwaukee. There's about 5,200 units of public housing. Those, of course, are all the income of the residents determines the rent they pay. And then there's also called site-based Section 8 buildings, and that is where the buildings, anyone who moves in will pay 30% of their rent as long as they live there. It's the building that has that restriction on it. So those are two ways in which permanent affordability has been implemented here in Milwaukee.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Stamper.
Do they own part of that building, though? Let's say the value, the value goes up. Do their ownership goes up?
No, in both those cases, those are rental situations.
Okay. Yeah, our idea or preference would be on ownership.
Yeah, so you're interested particularly in the co-op housing and the land trust.
And land trust opportunity.
Okay.
Ownership.
We'll take a look and come back to you.
Community ownership. Bless you.
Any further questions, comments, conversation
Mr.
from
Chair?
committee? Alderwoman Cox.
I would hope that, like, for the viewing public and for DCD in particular, and maybe DNS, they'll see, like, the pattern of these particular resolutions that are following the footnotes that we put through in budget are really an effort to, one, strengthen neighborhoods, improve housing stock, and really improve the quality of life of the residents that we all represent. We have many tools in our toolbox. These files are just for us to figure out the ways to use them most effectively to actually impact change block by block. We're just in political office, so we're using our tool of these policies. And the departments and the expertise and the resources to try to help deal with what for many of the people we represent are real issues of feeling pushed out of neighborhoods, dealing with boarded up houses and that whole kind of thing. So really much of today's agenda was really just our effort as stewards of the public trust and of the public dollar to try to figure out those ways to do something.
Excellent.
Particularly about the housing.
Excellent.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Stamper.
Was Rocky unavailable today?
Today?
Yeah.
Yes, he is unavailable today. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, the motion before us is adoption by Alderwoman Cox. Do we have any objections, any conversation on the motion? Hearing none, so ordered.